If I handed you $10,000 today and told you to move to Texas, there is a terrifyingly high probability you would blindly choose one of the absolute worst places in the entire state. Not because you were reckless, but because you would simply never see the trap coming. Right now, the media is aggressively selling the Texas dream. You hear about limitless jobs, cheap real estate, massive open land, and absolute freedom. On a glossy brochure, it looks financially unbeatable. But when you zoom past the edited real estate photos, past the political hype, you uncover a dark, terrifying reality. You find massive refinery towns where breathing the air is statistically riskier than the crime rate. You discover oil cities that explode with unimaginable wealth, only to completely hollow out the second crude prices dip. And you find stunning coastal towns that look like beautiful postcards, but sit exactly one hurricane away from absolute financial ruin. This is not just about bad vibes. This is about raw data that people refuse to read. These are the terrifying patterns of the housing market crash 2026 that everyone is ignoring. Fragility is hiding right behind the sunshine. What the real estate agents won't tell you is that some of these Texas towns aren't failing loudly on the evening news. They are quietly, agonizingly eroding. Why does a tiny border city carry more national tension than Austin? Why did a single prison closure completely destroy a local economy overnight? And which gorgeous beach town is currently living on borrowed, uninsurable time? Do you think you know Texas? Good, because by the end of this video, you will see it completely differently, and you will understand why the mass exodus of people leaving Texas has officially begun. Choosing the wrong zip code here doesn't just cost you money, it costs you your entire future. Hit that subscribe button to join the American exit, because where you decide to relocate changes everything. Let's break it down. Number 10. Port Arthur, the toxic refinery trap. If you can actually smell your city before you can physically see it, that is not local atmosphere. That is a massive biological warning label. On paper, Port Arthur looks like a strategic masterpiece. It sits right on coastal Texas, boasts a deep-water port, and possesses massive energy infrastructure. The median home prices hover way below the Texas average, frequently sitting under $130,000. It's cheap enough to make Zillow feel like a dollar store clearance rack. But then you zoom in. Port Arthur sits directly inside one of the largest, most aggressive oil refinery corridors in North America. The Motiva refinery alone processes over 600,000 barrels of crude oil every single day. According to EPA data, Jefferson County consistently ranks wildly above the national average for air toxics cancer risk. That isn't just an ugly skyline, that is measurable physical exposure. The violent crime rate is roughly double the national average in recent FBI datasets. The population has been bleeding out, dropping about 10% over the last decade. The median household income sits around $42,000. It's not terrible, but it's heavily and precariously dependent on federal defense spending. And then you have to deal with the hurricanes. Hurricane Harvey dumped over 60 inches of catastrophic rain here in 2017. Chemical plants violently flooded, essential infrastructure completely buckled. What the travel blogs hide from you is this: Port Arthur doesn't look like an apocalyptic wasteland. It just looks profoundly exhausted. A local Reddit user summarized it perfectly. It's not that it's awful every single day, it just feels incredibly heavy. And that is the perfect word: heavy. Now, here's the cruel twist. There are actually great refinery jobs here, solid union pay, strong community roots. Some families have built generational wealth. But the second oil prices drop, a major storm hits, or home insurance premiums spike, that cheap housing suddenly doesn't feel like a good deal. It feels like a terrifying financial calculation. And can we talk about the physical humidity for a second? I'm not talking about frizzy hair humidity. I'm talking about I walked outside and now I'm swimming in the air. You don't sweat in Port Arthur. you marinate. Combine that suffocating heat with refinery flare smoke and a mosquito population that looks like it's unionized, and suddenly an evening walk turns into severe existential regret. Imagine buying that highly affordable house. You step onto your porch at dusk. The Gulf air is suffocatingly thick. A massive refinery flare lights up the horizon like an eternal burning sunrise. It's quiet until the wind shifts and you catch that sharp, faint chemical burn in the back of your throat. You tell yourself it's fine, right up until your phone buzzes with the next major storm warning. Port Arthur isn't collapsing, it survives, but at a brutal physical and mental cost that most people refuse to price in. And if you think a refinery town is economically complicated, our next city built its entire identity on something far more volatile. Number 9. Killeen, the federal hostage situation. If your city's entire economic heartbeat depends entirely on one single employer, that isn't stability, that's just a hostage situation with superior marketing. Welcome to Killeen. On a spreadsheet, it looks incredibly solid. The population sits around 159,000. Housing is highly affordable, with median home prices typically resting below the Texas average. Rent for a basic one-bedroom often floats around $1,000 to $1,200. And of course, the city is anchored by Fort Cavazos, one of the most massive military installations on planet Earth, pumping billions of federal dollars into the local economy. But then you check the fine print. Killeen's violent crime rate consistently trends dangerously above the national average. In some recent datasets, it's nearly double. Property crime is also highly elevated. Bell County has faced repeated disturbing national headlines tied to violence and misconduct directly connected to the military base. And when your population constantly rotates in and out due to federal deployment cycles, community roots severely struggle to deepen. The median household income hovers in the mid-50,000s. It's not terrible, but it's heavily and precariously dependent on federal defense spending. And what nobody tells you about Killeen is that absolutely everything here orbits the base. The restaurants, the rental market, the retail stores. When Washington sneezes, Killeen reaches for the allergy medication. And here's the ultimate government twist. Military towns exist in a state of permanent policy limbo. Base realignment commissions, defense budget cuts, even the recent rebranding from Fort Hood to Fort Cavazos wasn't just a symbolic gesture. It served as a stark reminder that identity here is strictly federally assigned. Now, let's talk about the weird, chaotic energy. There's a strange, jarring duality in Killeen. You have highly disciplined, silent military formations at crack of dawn, followed by a chaotic nightlife strip that feels like it was engineered exclusively for 22-year-olds with massive deployment paychecks. It's intense patriotism by day and highly impulsive, reckless decisions by night. One local comment I uncovered stated, "Killeen isn't necessarily bad, it's just deeply temporary." That hits hard. The entire city feels like a waiting room. And can we briefly address the traffic patterns? Why does every single road here feel like it was designed during a municipal budget meeting that ended early? You have random, dangerous U-turn lanes, massive 5-lane highways that suddenly shrink without warning, and stoplights that feel personally offended by your physical existence. And the car dealerships? I've never seen that many guaranteed approval signs crammed into one single zip code. It's like the entire city runs on Dodge Chargers and terrifying 23% APR loans. You move there. The morning air smells like freshly cut grass and heavy diesel. Military helicopters rhythmically thump overhead. At night, you hear distant highway noise and aggressive bass echoing from a strip mall bar. You tell yourself it's just momentum, but then your lease renews, or the base shifts its deployment priorities, or violent crime creeps much closer to your neighborhood than you ever expected. Would you willingly live in a city where one single employer completely controls the vibe, the real estate money, and your entire future? Yes or no? Killeen isn't collapsing, it's entirely dependent, and dependency is completely quiet right up until the moment it isn't. Number 8. Beaumont, the city that stopped mid-sentence. Beaumont feels exactly like a city that was destined to become a massive global metropolis and then simply gave up halfway through. This is the literal birthplace of the legendary Texas oil boom, Spindletop, 1901. For a brief, shining historical moment, Beaumont was the absolute center of the energy universe. Unimaginable wealth poured in, railroads aggressively expanded, the industry exploded, and then history just kept moving right past it. Today, Beaumont's population sits around 113,000, dropping nearly 8 to 10% over the past decade. That isn't a dramatic Detroit-style collapse. It is a slow, agonizing leakage of talent and money. The median household income hovers around $45,000, sitting well below the state average. The poverty rate is roughly 20%, significantly higher than the state overall. Violent crime consistently tracks uncomfortably above the national average. Property crime does too. And while home prices remain relatively affordable, often sitting under $200,000, that affordability comes with a massive, terrifying footnote: extreme flood risk. Hurricane Harvey dumped over 60 inches of catastrophic rain on this region. Entire suburban neighborhoods were completely submerged underwater. FEMA claims stacked to the ceiling, and naturally, insurance premiums violently skyrocketed. What the real estate market won't tell you is that flood zones here are not hypothetical lines on a map. They are deeply personal tragedies. And then there is the government employment angle. Beaumont relies heavily on the public sector. Education, healthcare, and local government combined with energy industry jobs that are entirely tied to federal environmental regulations. When national policy shifts, local hiring freezes happen very quietly. Momentum slows quietly. That is the overarching theme here: quiet. Now, here's the bizarre part. Beaumont isn't an ugly city. It features gorgeous historic homes, beautiful tree-lined streets, and Cajun-influenced food that hits harder than it has any right to. Lamar University injects a slight pulse of youth into the mix. But then you drive through the downtown district at 8 p.m. and it's completely dead. It isn't peaceful, it's just paused. And can we discuss the violent weather mood swings? Beaumont doesn't just do light rain, it does biblical apocalyptic rehearsals. One minute it's humid enough that you can literally drink the air. The next minute the sky rips open like it's emotionally overwhelmed. And the local mosquitoes? I'm fully convinced they've unionized with the Port Arthur squad. You don't take a casual walk outside here, you negotiate terms of surrender with nature. Now picture this. You buy one of those beautiful historic old homes, a massive wraparound porch, towering oak trees. You're sipping sweet tea, listening to cicadas buzzing in the distance. It feels deeply southern. It feels grounded. Right up until the next massive flood warning hits your iPhone, until your home insurance quote aggressively doubles, until you realize that affordable real estate sometimes just means discounted risk. Here's a terrifying fun fact. Beaumont actually receives more annual rainfall than Seattle, Washington. Let that sink in. You get Texas, but make it Pacific Northwest humidity, seasoned heavily with refinery emissions. Remember Port Arthur's heavy, depressing feeling? Beaumont shares that exact same dark energy, just with vastly superior architecture. Beaumont isn't physically falling apart, it's just hovering. And hovering is incredibly dangerous, because stagnation doesn't terrify people, it just slowly, quietly convinces them to leave. Number 7. Eagle Pass, the geopolitical battleground. If you want to know exactly what it feels like to live permanently inside a chaotic national news cycle, move to Eagle Pass. The population is roughly 29,000. The median household income sits around $45,000, resting well below the Texas average. The poverty rate in Maverick County frequently spikes above 25%. Unemployment historically trends higher than state averages, though it wildly fluctuates with cross-border commerce and federal law enforcement presence. On paper, Eagle Pass is incredibly rich in culture. It boasts deep Mexican-American roots, amazing family-owned restaurants, and vibrant border energy. It's the kind of town where Spanish and English effortlessly blend mid-sentence. But then national policy hits the streets. Operation Lone Star, massive National Guard deployments, border patrol surges, miles of temporary physical barriers, endless aggressive court battles between state and federal government authorities. What the news cameras don't capture is this. When Austin and Washington get into a screaming match, Eagle Pass absorbs all the physical tension. The local economy depends incredibly heavily on government employment, border patrol, customs agents, state troopers, plus the massive cross-border commerce flowing through the international bridge. When border crossings slow down, local retail dies. When law enforcement spikes, tourism completely tanks. Surprisingly, violent crime isn't dramatically higher than many similar-sized Texas towns. That's the massive twist. The national perception of danger often heavily outweighs the actual statistics. But unfortunately, perception still dictates housing prices, business investment, and local insurance rates. And here's the incredibly weird reality. Your backyard might literally face an international boundary dispute. One day you have quiet, peaceful river views. The next day your view is blocked by razor-sharp concertina wire and hovering news helicopters. That isn't just instability, that's pure psychological whiplash. And can we discuss the brutal summer heat? South Texas doesn't just get hot, it physically presses the pause button on oxygen. We're talking about 100+ degree days with humidity that feels like the air is aggressively hugging you. Shade is purely decorative. You step outside at 3 p.m. and immediately question every single life decision that brought you to this latitude. Sunscreen isn't an option, it's tactical survival equipment. Now imagine this. You're grilling in your backyard. You hear cicadas and smell mesquite smoke. The Rio Grande is just a few hundred yards away. It feels deeply peaceful until a massive convoy of armored state vehicles rolls past your house, or a surveillance drone buzzes aggressively overhead, or the national media shows up to film for the week. It isn't pure chaos every single day, but the atmosphere is never fully neutral. Here's the tragic irony. Eagle Pass possesses one of the strongest, most authentic senses of identity on this entire list. Tight-knit families, deep roots, and genuine civic pride. But dependency is the hidden, crushing cost. Federal contracts, international trade flow, and unpredictable border policy dictate everything. When those massive elements shift, your entire life shifts with them. You're not just living in a small Texas town, you're living inside a geopolitical headline. And if you think living at the edge of national politics is intense, wait until you see the next city. They gambled their entire future on a commodity that is far more volatile than politics. Number 5. Odessa, the city held hostage by the barrel. If your entire city's emotional mood swings are tied directly to a global commodity chart, welcome to Odessa. Odessa doesn't just participate in the oil industry, it physically breathes it. Ector County sits deep in the heart of the Permian Basin, one of the most massively productive oil fields in the entire world. When crude prices climb, unimaginable money floods into the streets. Six-figure field jobs are handed out like candy. Local hotels are booked completely solid. Basic apartments suddenly start renting for Houston or Dallas prices, despite being in the middle of nowhere. And then, oil drops. During market downturns, unemployment spikes with terrifying speed. We have seen it violently jump from below 3% during the boom years to well above the state average the moment the oil contracts. The housing market is pure volatility. In peak cycles, rents for basic one-bedroom apartments have pushed past $1,500 in West Texas, and then aggressively softened the moment the drilling rigs shut down. Median home prices hover around the low to mid 200,000s, but your property value literally swings with the price of a barrel. The crime rate is concerning. Violent crime consistently trends above national averages for property crime. Property crime is equally high. The rapid boom growth severely strains the local police, public schools, and fragile infrastructure. When the population violently surges with transient temporary workers, civic stability severely lags behind. The median household income sits around the mid-60,000s, which is higher than some cities on this list, but it is heavily, dangerously concentrated in energy-related sectors. What the Chamber of Commerce won't tell you is that economic diversification here is incredibly thin. Yes, healthcare and education exist, but oil absolutely runs the show. And then there's the federal government angle. Energy policy, drilling permits, and strict environmental regulations, all of it lands directly on Odessa's collective paycheck. When politicians in Washington debate climate policy, everyday people in Odessa nervously check their bank accounts. Now, here's the weird aesthetic reality. The landscape feels entirely lunar. Flat, beige, relentlessly windy. Massive dust storms roll through like Mother Nature simply forgot to render the background textures of a video game. And then, Friday Night Lights hits. High school football here isn't just a casual sport, it's a deeply entrenched cynic religion. The massive stadiums are packed. Entire weeks of life orbit completely around game day. Odessa has serious swagger. It's just highly fragile swagger. And the wind. We must discuss the wind. Odessa wind doesn't just blow, it slaps you. It completely sandblasts your vehicle, your face, and your personal optimism. You wash your truck in the morning, and by the afternoon, it looks like it lost a violent cage match with the desert. And why is every parking lot either loose gravel or half-finished asphalt? It feels like the entire city is permanently stuck in mid-construction. You move here during a massive boom cycle. You buy a brand new truck, you secure a huge paycheck. The local steakhouse is packed. There's electric energy in the air, literally and financially. You feel completely unstoppable. Right up until the price of oil drops $20 a barrel. Until the massive layoffs violently ripple through the community. Until that shiny, brand new subdivision down the road suddenly has 3 for sale signs pop up in a single week. Odessa is raw opportunity, but it's entirely leveraged. Here's the deep irony. Some people absolutely love it. The money can be incredibly real. The community pride is deeply genuine. There's serious grit here, a culture of rugged self-reliance. These are people who don't complain, they simply adjust. But long-term stability is never, ever guaranteed. It's strictly priced per barrel. Deciding where to execute your American exit isn't just a basic financial equation. It isn't just about finding the absolute lowest state income tax or the cheapest median home price on Zillow. It is about understanding the geographic, environmental, and economic ghosts that you are inheriting. From towns built entirely on highly volatile oil markets to beautiful coastal cities that are one storm away from being wiped off the map, the state of Texas is filled with bizarre, completely unexplainable traps. Which of these 5 fragile Texas towns shocked you the absolute most? Would you ever consider risking your life savings to buy an uninsurable home on the coast of Port Isabel? Let me know your thoughts in the pinned comment below. If you're fascinated by the hidden geography of the United States and want to know the absolute best and worst places to relocate, hit that like button to feed the algorithm and subscribe to The American Exit. We expose the dark truth about the housing market and relocation trends every single week. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.